Okay, so here's how to start your learning on Tinkercad and how to get set up. We'll go to sign in and we're going to use email or username. I've already signed in, obviously, but you'll just put in the same credentials that you would if you were logging on to Fusion. So put your email in and then you'll put in your same password and sign in. Okay, so to access your learning modules, we'll go to Teach. No, we won't. We'll go to Learn. And we go down to Circuits, Projects, and Show All Arduino. There's quite a few here, but the first one we're going to go to is the Introduction. You can see here I've actually gone through, I've completed all these already, but let's restart. Why not? Yes, I do. Okay, so a couple of things I want to show you as we go through. Go to Welcome to Arduino. On the left over here are the instructions for the tutorials that you're going to work through, and I'll explain some of these buttons and whatnot as we go, and a couple of things that I'd like you to do. Sometimes when you're building these circuits here and it gives you instructions, you can click on this image and you kind of get a zoomed in view. That's kind of useless to us at the moment. We don't really need that, but I'll show you when this little image on the left here becomes useful to us later on. Let's go next. You can have a read through this. Definitely recommend that you have a read. Go through it sequentially, and then instructions are at the bottom. Continue to the next step. Again, I would read through this and then have a look at the instructions. So it goes through sensors and actuators and microcontrollers. Then it says, take a look at the project to the right of the panel, click on the Start Simulation button and give the knob a turn. The motor turns with it. So what we do is we go over to Start Simulation. It's initializing, and you can see the servo is turning. Now what it's asking you to do is use this input here, and it's just showing you that through this input you can turn the servo. That's all it's asking you to do. So I'm just using my mouse, clicking and holding that and dragging it around. You can read through this and answer some of these questions. And that's the other thing. Have your portfolio or your journal open, because there's a couple of things I want you to actually write down and define as we go. So take notes as you go with anything that you think is important here. Anything that you're learning, any definitions, write them down. So your project microcontrollers, the electronics, you attach them to the skeleton of your projects. Continue to the next step. I'll let you read through that. I'm just showing you things that you might get stuck on and a few tips as we go. All right, let's click on next to learn about parts of our Arduino kit. We'll hit done, and we're up to step number 2, parts of the kit. Okay, so we're going to get to know the components of the kit. Now, where it says here, you've probably noticed that you have a lot of physical electronic parts on your desk. Well, we would if we were at school, obviously. So you're just going to have to pretend that you have your kit there. Some of these parts of the tutorial we won't be able to do because you can't physically use the Arduino kits. But we can still go through and use this interface here and create a few circuits and get to know the Arduino kit a little bit better. So here we go. The version of the Arduino kit in the web browser is the circuit simulator, and that's what we're looking at here. So we can connect components and simulate what would happen in real life. It's great for modifying and trying new things without risking damage of any of the components. I'll let you read through that. And it says, get out your Arduino kit. Well, again, obviously we can't, but we'll work with what we have. We won't need to do that. Parts in your kit. All right, it says here, this is something I wanted to show you. Scroll through the components of the menu to find descriptions of the following components. Now, this is something I'd recommend you get some definitions for as we go. You might want to sketch what they look like, or you could screenshot a couple of these and put them next to the definition. So what we'd want to do is go to Components, All, and we'll go to this list view here. Now you get an image and a definition. So maybe screenshotting some of these would be useful, and you can have them in your back pocket for some definitions and what these different components actually do. Okay, so the Arduino and the breadboard. So the Arduino board here and our breadboard, they're already in the work plane here. And if we go back here, we can actually drag different components onto the workspace as well here, and we can change some of the parameters there. And you've got an undo button up here as well, so I'll just undo that. Get rid of that guy. So this is the virtual workplace where you'll start creating some of your kits. So it says scroll through all the components, and I would be getting screenshots or however you want to do it, but get some of these definitions down from that list here. Some of the common things that we'll use. Wires. In the simulator, wire connections are created. We just use our mouse. So what we can do here, let's go down to the 5-volt input, click on that and drag it up into the breadboard and click on that, and you have a wire created. You can actually change the color of these wires if you like. Change into red. For instance, you'll see in a sec we're going to use the ground wire here, and we'll color code our ground wire as black. It's just easier to keep your eye on who's connected to what and what's connected to which when you're actually making these circuits. So I'll just undo those two there. Okay. So you've got instructions down here, which I've just run through. You can go ahead and do those steps there. So parts of the Arduino, you can see the picture here. If you want to zoom in to actually see what it's talking about, feel free. That's what that picture's there for. But underneath here, it's going to go through some of the components that you'll see on the board here, on your Arduino board. So take note of a few of those. So there you got your reset button, LEDs. Just have a look at what they are actually telling you about your circuit. Digital pins, analog pins, which we kind of went through in the PowerPoint yesterday anyway. More parts of the Arduino board, so just so you can get more comfortable with what's what. Things we need to supply, that's for one of the projects, but that's okay. We can just continue on to the next one. Well, look, I'm going through this fairly quickly. I want you guys to slow down, read through it. I'm just showing you a few tips, a couple of things that you might get stuck with. So now we're going to start programming the Arduino. Yep. So have a read through this. Now we're going to click on the code editor. So code editor is up here, and this is going to open up. To visualize what this program does, we're going to click on the Start Simulation button shown above. Well, it's best if you just hide the code, and then we'll start the simulation. And you can actually zoom in here, but you can see we've got these LEDs blinking here. Well, one's blinking, and the on button is just on, showing us that we have power to the board itself. Yep, so you should notice a blinking light here. This program simply blinks the onboard LED, which is connected to pin 13, right here, on and off at a constant rate. Let's continue. When the simulator is running, you can make changes to the program. All right, now you're actually going to start mucking around with a bit of the code. Let's open up the code again. Get rid of that debugger, that's fine. So we're going to change the code in here. Remember, this is the sketch. This is the instructions for the microcontroller. And we're going to change the delay time. So we're going to change how fast this light blinks here. When you look on this sketch here, these are the instructions in black that the microcontroller will listen to, and with these two forward slashes on the right, it's just a description of what the code is actually telling it to do. So it won't actually read that. All right, so here we go. Change the delay time by changing the numbers in the parentheses from 1,000 to 100. So we go over to 1,000. We have to stop the simulation so we can actually edit, and we'll go backspace, backspace, and we will start the simulation. Initializing. Have a look at this light now. Have a look at what it's doing. This upload and run, look, you just press start simulation and it'll work. So this whole upload and run, it's really you just start the simulation. Remember, you have to stop it if you want to do any changes to the code, and then just hit start simulation. Initializing, so we've done all of this. Now, after we've changed the program, the LED should blink much faster, which it is. You can hardly see it blinking. In fact, I'm going to stop that simulation and start. Yeah, see how fast that's blinking? Instead of having 1,000 milliseconds, which is what we had it set to at the start, so we had 1 second. So these units here, it's like talking about grams and kilograms. So we're using milliseconds, and 1,000 milliseconds, like 1,000 grams equals a kilo. 1,000 milliseconds is 1 second. So we had, to start it with, when we had the code over here set to 1,000, we had it blinking on and off every second. Now we put in 100 milliseconds, so it's only 1/10 of a second between the flashes, and you can see that flashing fairly quickly. So that's flashing at 1/10 of a second. So that's what we did with the code. We just changed how fast that light blinks. All right, looking at mistakes. Yeah, I'm going to let you guys go through this. This is fairly straightforward. It's quite interesting. Follow the instructions here. You can follow these instructions. Should be fairly straightforward. Nothing too tricky there. It's just telling you about making mistakes in your code and how this will actually pick it up and alert you to what the mistake is. So now we are finished. I'm just going to close the code here. Stop the simulation. Let's have a look at our next lesson, programming the Arduino kit. Okay. Next, you're going to have to go to arduino.cc download, follow the prompts there, and you download for Windows, and open that up. And what you should find is, once you've downloaded it and opened it up, I don't want it that large, you'll get this window pop up here. So this is your IDE for Arduino, where you're going to do your sketches. So download and install that, and I'm just going to hide it for a second. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to follow these instructions here. So it's fairly straightforward. You navigate to the LED blink example sketch. So a sketch is an Arduino program. File, examples, basics, blink. So what we want you to do is go File, examples, basics, blink. And you get the second window open here. Just move it out of the way. And you can scroll down here, and there's the code, which looks like the one we were just using in Tinkercad. So again, delay 1,000 milliseconds, so that's 1 second, like 1,000 grams equals 1 kilogram. And that's the one we just changed before to get our rapidly blinking light. We changed it to 100 milliseconds. So there's a sketch in the Arduino IDE. Make that a little bit bigger. Continue to the next step. So this is where, because we don't have our board hooked up, this is where it gets a little bit different. We can't actually do all of these steps, but we can go up here, and what it's asking you to go to is Tool Board Arduino Uno, which is fine. We'll leave it at that for the time being. The other one it's going to ask you, I'll show you, is serial port. So we'd go to Tools, see our ports grayed out. We don't have anything connected. We don't have a board connected, so we can't really do this step. Yeah, so again, we can't upload the Blink sketch to our Arduino because we don't have anything set up for it, but you would hit this little upload button here and that would send the sketch to the Arduino board. Even though we can't hook it up, it's still good just to see how it all works. Yeah, and we can't do that. Yeah, again, this is just asking you to do that trick where we changed it from 1,000 milliseconds to 100 or a tenth of a second and look at the effect it has on your real Arduino board, but we can't do that either. All right, let's hit done. Let's build some simple circuits. We're going to go back to the simulator now. I'm going to hide the Arduino IDE and go back to our simulator. And hit next. And guys, I'm flicking through this quickly, but you need to go through and read these instructions as you go. Let's hit next. Okay, so to make your first connection, simply click on the 5-volt pin and red line extend up from that pin. You can drag around the cursor. Find that these pictures come in handy now, so you can actually open this up and zoom in and have a look at exactly where they want you to hook things up. So let's go 5-volt into here, and I've already set this one up before. They've got red. You can change this to a red wire, like so. There you go. Next step, follow these instructions. Follow these instructions. Now you're going to get some resistors and an LED put in here. You're going to get your 13 pin hooked up to the bus terminals down here. So you can zoom in on this diagram and it shows you exactly how they want you to set up the circuit. Whoops. And it's as simple as just dragging on components. I want to place that here. Don't worry too much about these figures here or these. We just want to really drag this around and make sure that we have in the same terminal or the same row here, we have the correct connections. So you go back and just check that the left side of your LED is in the same row here as your resistor. The right terminal of the LED is where the 13 pin wire attaches, etc. So just make sure that yours looks the same as this, really. And then we can go ahead, follow the instructions, and then you can hit start simulation and you can see what happens. I'll let you guys do that. Some additional functions in the code editor. So let's have a look. Open up the code editor and explore the additional buttons and features. Okay, so in code here, you've got libraries which have, different functions you can use, and you've got also an option here to download the code. So I've just downloaded onto my browser here, so I can download the code that I've built and then upload it elsewhere and send it to the microcontroller. So this bit here is just having a look around at some of the functions in this code window. 2 icons in the top right corner you might find useful when working on your projects: circuit view and components list. So just be aware of those there. Done. Lesson completed. Continue. Prerequisites. Again, guys, reading through this. You should know this already. Current voltage and resistance. We've gone through that in class. There's a little bit here on Ohm's law calculations. Circuit diagrams. Again, you guys have had practice with circuit diagrams, but there's a few more. There's a few more little symbols there. Obviously, we didn't use all of this stuff when we did it in class, so you might just want to have a quick look at those. Voltage dividers, I wouldn't get too hung up on these at this stage. I would just be going, yes, okay. That's quite full on. Multimeter, yeah, again, I would just be moving through this fairly quick. All right, let's get started with the next project, getting to know the tools. Done. Project completed. So let's go back to the project page. So that took us, well, it took me not long at all to go through those. It'll take you longer, obviously, because you'll be stopping, you'll be reading, you'll be understanding, making a couple of notes as you go, and you'll be setting up those circuits, which I didn't do just then. Let's go to Learn. Again, we want to go to Circuits, Projects, Show All Arduino. And you've got project 1, project 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I would recommend that you start project number 1, get to know your tools, and then after you've done that, you can move on to some of these other projects and just get to know how to use that simulator. Obviously, anything that requires you to use your actual Arduino kit, well, we can't. So you're just going to have to skip past those bits. What I want you to do is try and learn how to use that simulator, get comfortable with coding, and go through some of these projects this afternoon. So spend the double doing these projects. Start with Introduction, go to Getting Started with Arduino, pardon me, and then you can move on to some other projects down here, and you can have a play with those. So that's about it. That's how to get started with Tinkercad, Arduino, coding. If you have any questions, let me know. But other than that, you're free to move on and start getting to know your Arduino kits. Alrighty, have fun.